and its dictator from 1934 to 1945. His eugenics worldview and racially motivated policies resulted in the murder of 11 million people and in the death of an estimated 50 million people during the World War II. According to Hitler, the Aryans alone are to receive the privileges of education and high professional positions. Jews, Negroes, and any other non-Aryan races are not mentally strong enough to truly deserve high professional positions. Since 1970s, 419 million people were killed in China alone under the disguise of population control and global warming. And today, the UN and UNESCO is not only pushing this agenda, but is also promoting sex education beginning at the age of 5. This includes teaching children as young as 5 about masturbation and abortion in school as official curriculums all over the planet. Sir David Frederick Attenborough is a British broadcaster and naturalist. He is widely considered a national treasure in Britain. In 2002, he was named among the 100 greatest Britons following a UK-wide vote. He says, "If we, humans, disappeared overnight, the world would probably be better off," adding that, "We are a plague on the earth." He's also a former senior manager at the BBC. The elite, Illuminati, globalists, running the banks, the mega corporations, and most governments, promote and sponsor eugenics to date. The goal? To eliminate at least 80% of the world's population. Prince Philip, a eugenicist, second from right, front row, was educated in a Nazi school in Germany. Dr. Henry Kissinger wrote, "The population should be the highest priority of U.S. foreign policy towards the third world countries." He is also quoted as saying, "The illegal we do immediately, the unconstitutional takes a little longer."
The Illuminati goal is just as you have stated on your program over and over and over again. Basically, they want to kill us. Listen,
you tell them out there, Texas.
Alex, well, you know, the problem is that there are too many of us. And they want to rule. How do they rule with 7 billion people on this planet? The way they do it is to kill about 6.5 billion. That sounds so fantastic. And how are they going to do this? They have devised, we're going to take you through 3 revolutions, basically. The French Revolution, which is the setup for the whole thing, the communist explosion of the revolution, which happened in the 20th century, and now that we're in the 21st century, 2013, now we have the high-tech revolution. It seems to be good, Alex. I mean, they've got everything for us. I was just reading an article here about drones.
Anything you want to show, put them right here. We'll show people.
Yeah. Did you know that they're going to have 75 to 80,000 jobs? I mean, this is a good thing.
They're engineering the economy where the only jobs are in the tyranny.
We're like in a box right now. We're in a vice. And in every case, there's a high-tech revolution going on. And the elite are spending billions of dollars to put us in this vice. We need to know what's going on, what's happening for the future. The next 10 or 20 years, if we stay around that long. But there are things that are happening that people really need to understand.
I don't think control carries a lot of bad connotations. People around here don't want to be controlled, and I don't want to be controlled. On the other hand, family planning, I'm a great believer in planning, and as long as it's voluntary.
And then after that, we've got to stabilize the population. When I was born, there were
what's wrong with the population? I mean,
with too many people. That's why we have global warming. We have global warming because too many people are using too much stuff. But if there were less people, they'd be using less stuff.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services. We could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident.
The myth of overpopulation originated in England in 1798, when a vicar named Thomas Malthus, who fancied himself something of a mathematician, saw that food production increased incrementally, but people reproduced exponentially. He sat down and did some simple math, and summarily decided that the world would be out of food by 1890. He blamed reduced mortality rates, and recommended killing off the have-nots of society, lest the haves starve to death. This cry was taken up by Paul Ehrlich of Stanford University in 1968, who claimed that reckless human reproduction had overwhelmed the Earth. Massive famines would result, which would destroy, best case scenario, 1/5 of humanity by the end of the 70s, and the planet would follow. This fear produced large donations for the newly created UNFPA, which thrives on an imagined crisis that has been both imminent and rescheduled again and again over the past 2 centuries. The truth of the matter is that every family on this planet could have a house with a yard and all live together on a landmass the size of Texas, which is really just a small corner of the planet. The population of Earth will peak in 30 years and then start to go back down. We're not overpopulated. Do the math.
So that's the Global 2000. Decimate the world's population and particularly hit hard the United States middle class. How are they financing all of this stuff? They're financing it through the Fondi, who I mentioned to you earlier, the Venetian black nobility. Now, why are they called the black nobility? They're called that because of the vileness and the evilness of their deeds. These families date back to the 11th centuries, the Locatis, the Recanatis, and the Guelphs, by the way. The black Guelphs were one of the worst of them. Now, interesting enough, the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, is a Guelph. She's not a Windsor. This was a title that was evolved in 1935 by her father to put researchers off the track. He didn't like that certain people were getting hot on the track of who this royal family actually was, and so this was put out that they are the House of Windsor. They are not. They're the House of Guelph, and it's important for us to know that because every time there's a financial crisis, it follows a meeting of the black Guelphs upon the Royal Britannia yacht of the Queen of England, which anchors off the coast of Venice. And all the world bankers meet over there and say, now, this is what we're going to do to country X. This is how we're going to control this worldwide situation. And then they go off and give their orders to everybody.
You're going to look long and hard to find anything now that isn't Agenda 21. It is the blueprint. It is the action plan to inventory and control all land, all water, all plants, all minerals, all construction, all animals, all means of production, all energy, all information, and all human beings in the world. It is a completely comprehensive plan. It's global, and it's implemented locally. And that is where you're going to see it in your town, right there in your town. It is in every single town all across the United States and the world right now.
It's Chinese, and I think wisely instituted a one-child family policy, but and they put in penalties, tax penalties and so forth for people that have more than one child. But they, there are already still 1.5 billion people in China, and it's just, if you've ever been over there, it's just so overcrowded you can barely turn around. And if they hadn't put in the one-child family policy 25 or 30 years ago, it's estimated there'd be 250 million more Chinese than there are today. So that we do have the example of China, and they've done it without, as far as I can see, draconian steps. They do encourage people to have one child.
Handicapped children and girls are killed at birth in China. 490 million people have been killed in China since the 1970s for population control.
All those voting guilty, please raise your hands.
Jampo Hodren, the senior advisor to President Barack Obama for Science and Technology, said in his 1977 book, "Indeed, it has been concluded that compulsory population control laws, even including laws requiring compulsory abortion, could be sustained under the existing constitution if the population crisis becomes sufficiently severe to endanger the society."
Depopulation is their tactic, their strategy. You say, why? We have plenty of places that are unpopulated on the earth. We don't really have a population problem, but we do. Let me explain this to you. Foxconn is the largest corporation in the world. It's a Chinese group.
Guys, pull up suicide nets. Just type it in. It's incredible. Go ahead. Now, but Al Gore runs it, so it's okay.
Well, Foxconn has millions of employees, has one company that has 420,000 workers, huge combines. What do they make? They make all the iPhones that are made, all the millions of iPhones that we have in America. Yeah, well, it is slave labor. I think they make $1.67 a day. They live in dinky little rooms. They work 6 to 7 days a week. They have no unions. They have nothing. And you know, the people are so driven. The peasants that they bring in to do these jobs, to do these, you know, labor-intensive jobs, are so stricken with being a slave labor to being a drone, you might say, that they literally go to the top of the building, jump off, and kill themselves. The building supervisors have had to put nets all the way around the buildings to keep people from jumping off the building.
But how can a few elite people implement the deadly Agenda 21 all over the planet? Through secret societies and non-governmental organizations. Skull and Bones is one such a secret society, which includes George Bush Sr. and his son. Others include the Bilderberg Group, the Bohemian Grove Meetings, the Illuminati, and the Committee of 300.
The taking over of the world by the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and the UN to put us all in slavery.
So they carry out their goals through existing organizations. And also, of course, they have built up some special organizations of their own. I revealed the existence of an organization called the Royal Institute for International Affairs, which is located at Chatham House in 10 St. James Square in London. I also revealed the existence of the Club of Rome, the Cini Foundation, the Mont Pelerin Society, the Order of St. John, which was known but not known. And I listed all of these secret societies that run the world as executive arms of the Committee of 300. So it controls the world through all of these. The Royal Institute for International Affairs is the executive arm of this committee, which gives instructions to the United States government to this very day. The chain of command is as follows. Every Secretary of State that has been appointed since 1919 is appointed by the Royal Institute for International Affairs. That may come as a shock for you. You think you vote and you put a conservative in the White House, and then he appoints supposedly or allegedly conservative people to carry out the policies that you wanted him to implement. Surprise, surprise. I ask you to find me a conservative Secretary of State, and if you search diligently and apply the correct rules, you will come up blank. Every one of the Secretaries of State was chosen in London, as was Wilson, the President Wilson, as was Roosevelt, as was James Earl Carter.
If secret societies don't exist, as many would like you to believe, then why would these things happen in the land of the free?
Also, were you a member of Skull and Bones from college and Bush? Were you in the same secret society as Bush? Were you in Skull and Bones? Thank you for cutting my mic. Thank you.